Welcome back, and with us later in the broadcast will be former acting DNI Rick Grinnell. We'll be talking with him about what he's described as the battle between the permanent bureaucracy in Washington and the rest of America. Now we return to Vice President Pence as we take up those demonstrations and protests and riots of the past 2 weeks, and whether the China virus will have another wave as a result.
Our team has been following the potential health implications of these protests very closely. And what I can tell you is that at this point, we don't see an increase in new cases now, nearly 2 weeks on from when the first protests took effect. We're also encouraged by the fact that you saw a great deal of consternation in the media over Memorial Day weekend, Lou, where there were many gatherings on boardwalks and beaches and places around the country. We saw no significant uptick in new coronavirus cases from that. The truth is the American people have a lot of common sense. They understand the importance as we continue to work every day to put this coronavirus in the past of continuing good hygiene. Many people at protests were wearing masks and engaging in some social distancing. And we also know for a fact, Lou, that sunlight, humidity, heat all have a very good effect for us on defeating the coronavirus and its transmission. So we remain hopeful. We're following it. But at this point, now nearly 2 weeks on from the initial protests, we haven't seen an uptick. And the truth is, because of the decisive action the president took, shutting down all travel to China, because of the sacrifices the American people made when the president called for those 45 days to slow the spread, because of the relief efforts that the president was able to make available to businesses and families around the country, and because of, once again, of the guidance we gave to states to open up America again. We're seeing this nation coming back, our economy's coming back. All 50 states and all of our territories are open to one degree or another. And I think the American people are proving, even in the midst of these challenging times, that they can do that safely and responsibly.
I want to turn with that note on the virus, the Wuhan virus. We now know that China, its communist government, shut down domestic travel to prevent further contagion, but left wide open the invitation from the world for their travelers. So international travel by the Chinese, some of who were obviously contaminated, wasn't even discussed, wasn't considered. And we know now that the Chinese government lied to us. We know that they let an unsuspecting world go unwarned by the Chinese. That's akin, in some cases, to murder, certainly for 100,000 plus Americans, don't you think?
Well, and we grieve the loss of every single of the more than 100,000 Americans who've lost their lives to the coronavirus. But Lou, you're absolutely right. China was not straight with the United States, did not give the facts to our country or to the world. In fact, they didn't even allow CDC personnel to go to China to look at the real data and what was happening until the middle of February. That would be several weeks after the president suspended all travel from China, which again, I think you cannot overstate the significance of that. We didn't have a single domestic case in the United States other than people who had returned to this country from China at the end of January, and yet the president looked at the circumstances and he made that gut-level decision to suspend all travel from China. And I can tell you, it bought us invaluable time in standing up this whole of America response that did slow the spread. We flattened the curve. We saved lives. But the president's been very clear. We're gonna hold China and the World Health Organization accountable for for their failure to adequately warn the world about the coronavirus.
This is the sin and the act of Xi Jinping. It's indisputable. He did not warn an unsuspecting world of a deadly contagion. And his government instead is bellicose, threatening the president of China himself, telling the People's Liberation Army to prepare for war. And we continue to negotiate what was a historic agreement and treaty. Is that going to continue? Is there any prospect that they will honor their commitments this one time over the past 2 decades?
Well, China continues to buy our goods and buy particularly agricultural goods, but your viewers would do well to know that the vast majority of the tariffs that the president's imposed on China to reset that imbalanced trading relationship that existed under successive administrations are all still in effect. Right. I mean, no president has done more to stand up to China or to stand up for American workers in our relationship with China than President Donald Trump. And we will continue to stand strong there. We will continue to assert America's strategic interest in places like the South China Sea and the Asia Pacific. We'll continue to stand strong as China breaks their word to the people of Hong Kong and the international agreements they made. We'll stand strong on human rights. But the American people can be confident that it's not just what happened with the coronavirus, but every step of the way, this president's strong stand with China has been vindicated. I think the American people see it, and they can be confident that President Donald Trump and our entire administration are going to continue to stand firm when it comes to China until we reset the economic relationship in a way that puts American jobs and American workers first, and hold accountable all of those who failed the people of our country and failed the people of the world when it came to the coronavirus.
Vice President Mike Pence, thank you for your time. Appreciate it. And good to see you.
Thank you, Lou.